Makes you wonder, you know.
I bet it does. I'm sure you have both, and when you obviously the Pauley Swamp section. You said you said that's near Bucksport. For viewers in the PD or southeastern North Carolina, O'Ree is such a large county geographically. Is that a
Pauley Swamp lays on the southwestern part of O'Ree County, and then just to the south of that is Bucksport.
Okay.
Pauley Swamp is not far from Marion County, but Marion County swings all the way around O'Ree County on that side, so that there's probably 6 or 7 miles between Pauley Swamp and Bucksport as the crow flies. And we live between them on a little place called the Gilbert Road, which is a little closer Pauley than Bucksport, but in between the two, because I went to school at a 3-room wooden schoolhouse at Pauley Swamp.
Is that right?
And so, and that was maybe the drive, the road would be about probably 4 or 5 miles.
And when your parents were growing up, were they in a position where they could be active? I mean, for instance, schools at that time. How, you know, we had a guest earlier this week who highlighted that growing up in a community where if the bus got there before their parents grabbed them to get them out in the field, if the bus got there, they'd get on the bus. If their or he tells some stories about
we did not have that problem. Of course, we had to catch the bus like at 7 because it had to make a long rural area to get to the school by 8.
Of course, yeah.
And then we got home at 4, and of course we didn't have any food. We had a big breakfast, and we got our next food when we got home. But when you got home at 4, you went in the house and ate whatever mother had ready, and right out the back door into the field till dark. So, oh yes, it was a work. We started out walking about a mile to catch the bus, and then the bus came down the Gilbert Road to pick us up. To start with, it picked us up on the PD highway. It was a PD dirt road then.
Right.
But then it started coming down that Gilbert Road so that we didn't have to walk so far.
How amazing, Larry. And I guess this is, there were a lot of your contemporaries today. There are a heck of a lot of folks that lived in a very similar environment.
Well, I thought at that time that we were the poorest of all. But as I got older and looked around and realized there was a lot of people in O'Ree County wearing basically the same shoes we were wearing. Yes.
Later in life, as you, I guess you remained in O'Ree County. What was it?
Yes, I remained in O'Ree County, and I went to work right out of high school the next day at Conway Metal, and then 4 or 5 years later started building houses, and then built probably 1,000 houses before I went to college the first day.
Oh, come on. 1,000 homes?
I built several thousand altogether, but I mean, I probably built 1,000 before I went to Coastal the first day. I did the tech college a little bit and did some classes at Coastal.
Right.
But that was after I was in the building business. And
well, now building houses, that sounds like these big developers, the D.R. Hortons or the Syntec folks that are building lots at a time. How were you able, you must have...
I had 1 year after I started building, I had 66 houses under construction at the same time.
Oh, Lord, Larry. Are there 65 other Larry Pauls that I don't know about?
Not that I know of.
That aren't sitting here today. My Lord, how were you able to maintain something like,
we built, when I started building in the late 60s, a kid, but it just so happened that we had so many people in O'Ree County in good positions that were people of integrity. The bankers, the FHA people, the lenders, the building suppliers, the city officials, made it a lot easier than it is today. Bob Winfield was the administrator of Conway. And Bob was, of course, in charge of all the infrastructure for Conway. And Bob, if Bob said, if you'll build a street through so-and-so and so-and-so, I'll put the sewer. Well, that's all I needed. Bob was a man of integrity and still is. And he knew I'd do what I said. We didn't write contracts. We didn't put up deposits. We did what we said. Tubby Hendricks was the building official. He was a man of integrity. He knew I would do what I said, and I knew he would do what he said, so that made it easier. George Bishop ran Walkmall Clay Products. He was good to me. George gave me 90-day credit to pay for the brick I used out of his plant, or wherever he sold them for.
Right.
He represented several factories. Mr. Craig Wall Sr. owned Walkmall Supply. He was a good friend. He was, anything he said he would do. He and I did business together. We bought land together. We did things together. And Mr. Wall Sr., I'd just rather have his handshake or his word than anybody's contract in most of the things today.
Larry.
And that's the way it was with Mr. Wall. That's the way it was with Luke Benson and Willis Duncan at Conway National Bank. I borrowed money from, and I had enough, in just a few years in business, I had enough saved, canceled, paid notes and mortgages to wallpaper my office that Conway National had loaned me money. So we grew. And I came in at a time that there was a shortage of houses. FHA came in so that we could build houses for the masses under lower income levels. And then people's savings, the different ones had good money, conventional money.
Right.
So I was at a good time.
So a lot of these were farmhouses. These are
Farmers Home Administration. That was
Farmers Home
modest,
okay. Right.
modest income housing. Modest income housing. And we were building, trying to complete and move in a family every single day. We tried to move in one family in a new L.W. pole home every day. And we would average, not 5 a week, which would have been one, but we would average year in and year out 4 a day because of rain and other things.
Wow, Larry. I'm sure you have vivid memories. So you had a tremendous crew, obviously, working with you, a lot of folks. But what was it about, I mean, coming out of that, how was it that you did that versus someone down the street? I mean, what
I don't
was
know.
it?
The good Lord just blessed me. That's all I can say.
Yeah. You remember,
maybe I tried harder. I don't know.
Can you think back of anything, an early business foray, something that kind of got the ball rolling? Can you think back?
Well, I had a serious thing to happen to me. I developed leukemia when I was like 15, and I had 6 months to live for the next 10 years, actually more than that. And I knew I didn't have long. Maybe I tried harder. But I found out I was going to live. When my daughter, 30 years ago, I found out I was going to live. They said, you know, you're probably cured. So I did all that. But I was healthy other than I would get lumps in my groin and in my neck and under my arms and go get chemo and go get radiation, you know.
Is that right? You're
off the
30,
job.
40 years ago, yeah.
Yes. And then when my daughter was a baby, they sent me to Charleston because I almost died. And they gave me heavier radiation and cured me.
Entirely.
Haven't had a recurrence since.
Yeah. That's right. Good. Well, congratulations. Yes, I'm sure that's something that. But without that drive, I mean, clearly getting the cure, finding that didn't slow you down. Without that drive of I've got another 6 months to live.
Well, you know, I came from humble beginnings. You know, I knew on that farm we were going to do better. I knew I was going to work. I knew I was going to do better than that. I had to. I mean, you know.
As you think about, and of course, having 5 brothers and sisters, did any of them get in the business with you or follow in, or did any of them stay in farming, for instance?
My oldest brother got in business with me. In fact, he was a partner on everything he worked on. My other brother, Walter, got into real estate business with me one time. All of them have worked for me pretty much at one time or another. But I pretty soon found out that there was more money to be made in the land than the buildings. Even back then when I was building houses, you know, if you averaged $1,000 on the house year in and year out profit, you did well. But sometimes you can make $2,000 or $3,000 on the land.
Right.
So I was more involved with the land than probably money-wise than anything.
That's fascinating. And of course, with a county this large, when you think about a county with more than 1,200 square miles, I mean, you're dealing with a gigantic county, to...
Sure. Well, most of the houses were built in Horry County. We covered from Whiteville to Tabor City and around Georgetown. So we had a bigger circle than Horry County, but primarily Horry County, yes.
Right. That's tremendous. Well, we want to hear more about that, and obviously about the L.W. Paul Horry County Living Farm Museum. I'm sorry to say we've run out of time, but I hope, will you be willing to come back and be with us a little bit tomorrow morning?
I will be glad to do that, yes.
Okay, great. Larry, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Larry Paul of the L.W. Paul Horry County Living Farm Museum. Coming up next. You heard him talk about Bill, Walter, Betty, Sam, and Esther. Of course, they shared a last name with their brother Larry. The excitement was sitting here hearing him talk about George Bishop and Tubby Hendricks and Bob Winfield and folks who really made a significant impact on his life going forward, setting the stage for him to continue to grow his business. We heard him talk about Craig Wall Sr. There's also a Craig Wall Jr. and a lot of folks that have made a difference in his life. But right now it's setting the stage for a lot of growth out at the L.W. Paul Horry County Living Farm Museum. There's a lot more to L.W. Paul. Come back tomorrow. Spend a little time with us here on Carolina People. Or if you can't be with us, take the time to pick up the phone and call the Horry County Museum, 843-915-5320, 843-915-5320, or go online to horrycountymuseum.org. Larry Paul, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.